Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο διαγρατός, αλληλούια, ότι στον
Original sin is a doctrine that shaped Christian thought for centuries. But did you know that the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church understand it differently? Today we'll explore the key differences between the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church and how they view original sin. Let's get into it. Now, what is original sin? Both the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church believe that Adam and Eve's sin in the Garden of Eden had serious consequences for humanity. However, they interpret these consequences different. Catholics believe in original sin, while Orthodox believe in ancestral sin. St. Irenaeus says in his book Against Heresies, through the disobedience of one man, sin entered the world, and through sin, death came. But God, in his mercy, prepared the second Adam to restore life. The second Adam is obviously referring to Jesus, of course. The Catholic view on original sin is heavily influenced by St. Augustine. Original sin is understood as an inheritance of both sin and guilt from Adam. Now, Romans 5:12 says, therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned. What it's saying here, how Catholics interpret this as all humans inherit a fallen nature and the guilt of that sin. This means that every person is born spiritually separated from God, in a need for a baptism to remove that inherited guilt, that original sin. Baptism restores the sanctifying grace that makes a person a child of God. In the 16th century, the Council of Trent confirmed that without baptism, a person remains in a state of original sin. This is why for many years, Catholic theology proposed the idea of a limbo, a place for unbaptized infants, though this is not an official doctrine. St. Augustine says in one of his writings, who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one. We all derive from Adam, we all bear the stain of his sin. The Eastern Orthodox Church takes a different approach to this. While seeing original sin as not as an inherited guilt, they view it as inherited consequences. The Orthodox do not believe that the people inherit guilt from Adam's sin, only its effects, namely death, corruption, and tendency towards sin. They interpret Romans 5:12 differently than what the Catholics interpreted it. They interpret it saying, all sinned in Adam. It is often translated as death spread to all because of which all sin. In this view, we sin because we are mortally weak, not because we are born already guilty, but because we're just weak. For Orthodox Christians, Christ's mission was not just to remove sin, but to defeat death and corruption, restoring humanity to have divine union through the process of theosis. St. John Chrysostom and St. Basil the Great align with this theology. Well, St. John Chrysostom says, we do not inherit the sin of Adam, but we inherit the death and resulted from it, and through Christ death is conquered. St. Basil the Great says, Adam's sin brought corruption into the world, and it is not by inheritance that we bear his guilt, only the wound he left behind. This difference of original sin also affects how Catholics and Orthodox view the holy Theotokos, the mother of Jesus. Catholics believe in the Immaculate Conception, believing Mary was preserved from original sin at the moment of her conception, while the Orthodox rejects this claim, not because they think Mary sinned, but because they don't believe in inherited guilt. Instead, some Orthodox Church Fathers say Mary was purified at Annunciation. Now, what Annunciation means is when she met the angel Gabriel. St. Gregory says, the Virgin was sanctified in the womb and prepared to become the dwelling of the Most High, and she was not exempt from the consequences of the fall, for Christ alone is without sin. One of the biggest concerns of original sin is what happens to unbaptized babies. In the traditional Catholic thought, unbaptized babies were believed to go to a limbo, like I mentioned earlier, a state of unnatural happiness but without heaven. However, modern Catholic teaching says we can hope that God's mercy is for unbaptized infants. However, in Orthodox theology, babies are not guilty. They are entrusted to God's love and mercy, with no need for a limbo. St. Gregory of Nyssa, in defense of what the Orthodox teach, is infants who die before baptism are not condemned, for they have committed no sin. They are in the hands of the merciful God, whose justice is beyond our understanding. While St. Augustine says unbaptized infants are condemned, who can doubt that the little children not yet able to commit sin on own account are yet not free from sin? The guilt they have contracted by their first birth is removed by the second birth, which is baptism. So St. Augustine holds to a very harsh way of if infants don't get baptized, they might not make it to heaven. So, but Catholics now, they kind of push away from that now because obviously God's merciful and He's just and He's loving. In conclusion, different emphasis, same faith. While Catholics and Orthodox Christians hold to a different view on original sin, they both agree that death entered the world through Adam, and the salvation comes through only through Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Catholicism emphasizes that legal guilt and the need for baptism to remove it, while Orthodoxy emphasizes human corruption and the healing of the power of Christ. Both traditions agree that Christ came to restore humanity and the baptism is essential for spiritual rebirth. St. Athanasius says, God became man so that man might become God. Now in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Peace.
Εξομολογήστε τον Κύριο διαγραφή.